Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing the June 16th to June 17th Godfest that is debuting tomorrow or in a couple of hours. So this Godfest is following the similar structure that we've seen for the past many months for Godfest, in that the rolling rates have been disclosed, as well as the 6 and now 7-star Godfest exclusives being featured on a limited time rotating basis. Now, you always can check in game to see the exact rolling rates, but generally speaking, 6-star Godfest exclusives tend to be at 0.6, whereas the 7-star Godfest exclusives are 0.5. Of course, these can fluctuate and vary. They can maybe higher or lower, so check with yourself in game. But the decision of whether or not to roll in a Godfest really rests upon your own monster box and personal needs. Just because XYZ card is powerful for the average player, if it does not have much merit for yourself, or you have many of them already, it may be best to either skip them, and then conversely, less powerful or amazing cards may be more beneficial to yourself just because they fit your monster box more readily. So this Godfest is a little bit of an interesting twist on what they normally are, because we actually have all 5 of the evolved forms of Neys being able to pop out of the Godfest machine. So instead of now 21 Godfest exclusives being available, we will have 25. So assuming that they do not nerf the rates in any way, shape, or form, this should be a higher modestly or significantly higher rolling rate of actually acquiring a 6-star Godfest exclusive, or a Godfest exclusive in general, because, well, you have 4 new cards, and if they're at 0.5% chance, there's about a 2% higher chance. Not the most, of course, but it's still a little bit higher. And of course, if the roster and lineup is favorable to yourself, it is worth pursuing. So if a Godfest exclusive is listed as unavailable, you actually cannot roll them, which is kind of different if you've started playing, like, say, several years ago and have only come back to the game recently. So only the cards in this box here can be rolled. They will have possibly different rolling rates. We can assume that Zila and then the 5 Neys should most likely have lower rolling rates, but again, it's all speculation. So this Godfest might be good overall, but there is some speculation. Again, speculation, rumors, nothing is confirmed, that maybe we'll get Persona Club, or maybe Magic the Gathering, or maybe a Super Godfest in the near future. So again, you always have to roll with caution, but the thing is, if you keep holding on to Magic Stones forever, you might fall further and further behind in terms of power creep. So sometimes you might have to bite the bullet if you're falling too far behind, and a Godfest might actually help you out and push you to the next level of content. But if that being said, you still want to obviously line up a Godfest with cards that you actually need and are missing ideally many of. Like, even though we do have the Monster Exchange system, it is still good to try and acquire a new Godfest exclusive, because it will fulfill a new role in your monster box for the most part. So I'm basically just kind of reposting my Zila review again, because she only came out last Godfest, and maybe not everyone was able to actually read that or see that video. So I'm just going to quickly summarize it, because it is a bit of a repeat. So she has 2 distinct forms, but for the most, and you can either choose Void Damage Penetration or 7 Combo Awakenings. But the 7 Combo Awakening form is almost always the way to go, because she has 3 of them, which translates into 8 times personal damage. She has 1100 weighted stats, which is kind of expected from high value Godfest exclusive or high value rare cards. Her active skill is kind of akin to Yogg's in that it combines many different components. But for Zila, it makes Hearts and Woods, which is obviously very desirable if you play a mono wood team or a wood-oriented team. You get +2 combo count, as well as removing locked orbs. So actually, this is kind of more on line with Yusuke in the sense that you're removing locked orbs. So you remove locked, you create a bi-elemental board changer with Hearts, which is important, as well as +2 combo count. So +2 combo count, you may argue that it's not that helpful if you're just playing a traditional combo leader, but let's say you have a Void Damage Penetration card in your team that's wood. Say you chose Zila in her Void Damage Penetration form for some reason, or you have other VDP cards in wood. Now, with bi-elemental board changer, it still has the chance of you not actually being able to activate, I'd say, at least 7+ combos, as well as the 3x3 box. Now, I'm saying 7+ combos because some cards that have Void Damage Penetration rely on 7 Combo Awakenings to push their damage to the next threshold in order to actually kill content. Of course, each combo does add some damage, so having the bonus combo count is meaningful, because A, you get bonus damage all the time, but B, it might help you hit those specific awakenings or multipliers from your leader skill. So it's a great active skill to have, assuming you have wood cards to really take advantage of it. She's bind immune, which is kind of a standard thing nowadays. And again, with those 3-7 combo awakening, she does gain follow-up attack awakening, so she's solving quite a few problems for your teams. Remember, her board changer is almost always going to guarantee you at least 5 hard orbs, so you can make the follow-up attack as well as massive amounts of damage and combos at the same time. She's animated, which is kind of a trend for like new and rare and luxurious cards, and she has some leadership potential, but unfortunately, it's a bit too orb hungry. She's most likely going to be a stronger sub on your teams. And in terms of her drawbacks, wood is not as desirable of a color. If Zila was light and everything about her was light, she would be an incredible card, because light-based teams, most notably Edward and Yusuke, are really the top at the moment, along with Diablos, but Diablos kind of makes everyone better, to be fair. Zila also only has 1 skill boost, and she does have quite a long base cooldown. Now, assuming you can take advantage of her active skill, you generally don't really mind because it's so powerful, but if her active skill is not necessarily helping you as much, it may be a little harder to justify because it's harder to actually inherit over top of her. So, kind of like I already mentioned, like Diablos, Edward, and Yusuke are kind of the top 3 meta leaders at this point in time, and you can use Zila on their teams, except for Yusuke, just because she doesn't have the correct attributes, but you can use her on Edward, you can use her on Diablos based teams, but she may not necessarily be the best fit possible, mostly because her active skill may not necessarily have synergy with your team. Edward teams generally like to have light based cards to actually take advantage of Edward's base active skill, but again, it's all just depending on what you have in your monster box. She might be the greatest thing you have, and of course it's going to be a big boon to you, your teams moving forward, but again, it all depends. So she is powerful, but to a certain extent, I feel that she's kind of just waiting for a good team to give her a solid home to use her well on. But again, you can all take these with grains of salt. Like, she is still a very powerful card and is great to own, especially moving forward when Gungo releases new cards in the future. So, as with all my Godfest reviews, I try to include my own tier list. This is my own tier list. It's kind of based on my understanding of the game and that what makes a card strong in terms of its viability as a sub, leader, inherit, or all of the above, basically. Like, how can this fit in the current meta and advance players' level of progression? So again, take this tier list and really any tier list with a grain of salt, because they're not absolute truths. They're usually good starting points. Like, you can like make inferences, like say like something is ranked 8. It might be amazing for you because that's what fulfills your needs for your monster box, but conversely, it may also be lackluster because you have other options that just happen to have better synergy elsewhere. So I tend to rank them through S through D. Nothing is D because D is terrible. Like, it's horrible if we go by, it's just something you don't really want. But for this Godfest here, we have a modest spread. Like, it's almost all the A-ranked cards, amusingly, but you're missing quite a few of the kind of top prize chase cards. And actually, when you think about it, it's not really that many A cards because they're all really evolved Neys. It's kind of misleading, I feel, almost. But I have to include it because those are technically roles you can actually acquire from this Godfest event. So this Godfest is, I'd say, average. It's not amazing, it's not terrible, but it's just average. But of course, if you are missing all of these cards here and you have all the missing cards from the S tier above there, it might still be a good Godfest for you to roll in. Again, base all these judgments on your own monster box needs. So with that being said, like, there should be a 0.6% chance rolling rate for all the 6 stars, and then 0.5% chance for the 7-star cards. So despite the fact that Godfest exclusive cards can sell for 50,000 or 75,000 monster points, I strongly recommend you do not ever do that. And that is because we have the Godfest exclusive trading post, or the monster exchange system. And this system allows us to basically exchange or trade in 4 6-star Godfest exclusive cards or rare collab cards for a card of our choice. Now, the card of our choice generally is something incredibly powerful, and thus far we've been able to actually trade in for Yusuke, and I did that for all of my accounts. I did that for my mom's account, and my mom's loving Yusuke because we didn't actually have to roll in those collabs. So by actually having duplicates of 6-star Godfest exclusives, it's a great thing because now we can actually exchange them in and get ourselves a rare and valuable card without actually having to gamble our magic stones away in what could possibly be a lackluster club outside of those top chase cards. So any Godfest exclusive you roll, you should really be keeping because they're incredibly valuable for exchanging. Even if it's something that has no value to yourself, just keep it and sit on it. Just wait. And then something will come out in the future that you truly desperately want, and being able to exchange for them is going to make your life significantly happier. Now, with all Godfest, there are going to be still Pantheon cards and 5-star or former 5-star Godfest exclusives. I still call them that. We don't really have a better name for them at this point in time, but those cards tend to be highlighted or featured at higher rates outside of Godfest. So in theory, during Godfest, you actually have a lower chance of rolling those specific niche cards, but in all honesty, you're better off waiting for a Godfest in 99 out of 100 times or 100 scenarios, because you want those 6-star or 7-star Godfest exclusives because they're A, usually more powerful, and B, they can be exchanged for through the monster exchange system. So they do there are events outside of Godfest, but Godfest are the events you really want to roll in. Now, in terms of other desirable featured cards available, there are a couple other noteworthy cards, but the ones that really stood out for me are Bridget, Aif, Lu, Tsubaki, and Sumire. So Bridget has triple machine killers, which is obviously amazing. Aif has 777 combo. Lu has void damage absorption void. So basically it's a Fujin style active skill with no secondary benefit. Having one of these can tremendously propel your progression through the game, so it's amazing. Tsubaki's been a very desirable and favorable sub in lots of niche scenarios because it's got double dragon killers while being red. Yes, Kiri has 3 dragon killers, but sometimes you want a red card, not a blue card. So it can be pros and cons in terms of what you want to use. Tsubaki can equip devil killers. It can be useful, but at this point in time, during the Riku ranking dungeon, Tsubaki's with Anzu's verse teams are kind of the key cards, so to speak, to kind of push your way through the ranking dungeon and score a high and possibly even a crowning score overall. And last but not least, Sumire does have the ability to be converted into a weapon assist evolution, which will grant him, or her I should say, a skill bind resist awakening, which can be meaningful for certain teams that are lacking SBR coverage. So, at this point in time, it is hard to say what is better to roll in. Is it better to roll in a collab or a Godfest? Now, Godfest obviously feature basically all the cards from the rare machine at some point in time. They kind of follow this cyclic pattern. Now, for the most part, cards from the rare machine tend to be kind of like the baseline cards, and it's a way to build up your monster box most efficiently because it kind of covers what you need to basically advance through challenging content for the most part. But with that being said, collab cards tend to be significantly more niche by comparison, but they tend to be also more powerful overall. So we now have this kind of interesting, or not really, it's a kind of a frustrating conundrum because we need the regular rare machine to actually fill out our monster box, but we need the collabs to kind of get those rare and sexy cards to kind of push ourselves to the next level. So at this point in time, I would probably encourage newer players to really just focus on Godfest because that will lay the core foundation for building up a strong monster box and then filling in with collab cards as needed to kind of round out those niche or small holes that you have developed, or you need a stellar leader such as Yusuke. But for more veteran players that have been playing for a prolonged period of time, you possibly have most of the regular Pantheon cards already at this point in time and just missing the newer cards. And then collabs tend to have more value because they are fulfilling roles that you can't replicate elsewhere. So it can be challenging to figure out where you want to spend your stones, and also the fact that collaborations tend to be limited time, like the Full Metal Alchemist that had Edward and the YYH, which had Yusuke, have passed. They may not come for another half a year or even a year. We don't even know. So there is a bit of a time urgency thing with collabs. So it can be a little problematic. But if you are a newer player, Godfests tend to be a better place, again, to lay that foundation. More veteran players with more highly diversified and deep monster boxes tend to find more value from collabs. So in conclusion, this Godfest is really just average overall. Yes, it does have 5 evolved forms of Neys, which should propel the 6-star, or basically propel the Godfest exclusive rates up by a little bit, but it's not a super Godfest. And in all honesty, Puzzle and Dragons, or Gung Ho North America for Puzzle and Dragons, has announced a stream, I believe, next Friday, and they will probably announce something new and exciting at that point in time because, well, that's just kind of what they do. They usually do streams to kind of like hopefully tease something that gets us all hyped up and excited. So Godfests come twice a month, so every 2.5 weeks. So you don't have to wait that long to actually have another Godfest come around. So you might just be better off passing on this one and just seeing what Gung Ho North America is teasing us this coming Friday. If anything newsworthy or noteworthy is announced, I'll make a website post and or video alongside of it. So hopefully you all have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best of luck in your own pad adventures. If you do plan on rolling, tell me what you are hoping to roll and how much you actually plan on rolling. But most of all, happy puzzling.